Ministers are not men pleasers. God has not called you as a minister to please men, but your goal, your focus should be to please the God that has called you. A lot of people seek out men's validation. So because of this, they conceal the truth of God's word in order to obtain worldly advantages. They blend the truth to make it more agreeable to the taste of natural men. You're going to give an account of the ministry God has committed into your hands. And I want you to be like Jesus. In John 12 verse 49, Jesus said, John 12 verse 49, he says, "For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me gave me a command, what I should say and what I should speak." I believe the greatest discipline of a minister is to communicate the things that God communicates to him. It's not just to say what people want to hear. There are people who only minister what other people want to hear. No, you are not in need to please men. You are not in need for men's validation. You are to speak the truth regardless of whoever receives or decides not to receive it. You know, Apostle Paul said in 1 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, 1 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, it says, "But as we have been approved by God to be entrusted with the gospel, even so we speak, not as pleasing men, but God who tests our heart." See, before God will qualify you, before God would approve you with the gospel to a generation, He will first test your heart. He will purify your motives. He will purge your intentions. These things matter than the words we say. Why are you saying the things you are saying? Jesus said, "It is what the Lord has, it is what the Father has said to me that I speak. I receive orders from Him, what to say and how to say it." This is pure ministry. Receiving from God what to say part time. There are people constantly looking for the reigning thing, the reigning message. The reigning message might not be the message God has given you to your own generation. Jeremiah had an unpopular ministry, unpopular and unaccepted. He kept on prophesying violence, but that was the word gave him to his generation. People may not accept or believe the truth, but you must still say the truth. Ministers are not men pleasers. You are not in need to please men. You are not in need to blend. Don't blend the truth to make it agreeable to the taste of natural men. Don't conceal the truth of God's word so that people can like you. Always remember, you will give an account of your ministry, of the messages you taught. I want you to do it with the right motives. Do it with the right intention. There was a time in the Bible that Jehoshaphat went to meet Ahab. They were supposed to go to war against the king of Syria. And the king, Ahab, he called for the prophets in the land to come and tell him what the Lord was saying about that war. And the Bible said they encouraged him. They told him he was going to win. But then Jehoshaphat said, "Is there no prophet of God in this place that can tell us the mind of God?" And Bible says they sent for Micaiah the son of Imlah. They sent for Micaiah. And when the messenger that went to Micaiah got to him, he said, "When you get to the palace, make sure you say things that are encouraging to the king, because that's what the other prophets have been saying. Don't say anything contrary." And Micaiah made a statement in 2 Chronicles 18 verse 13. He says, "And Micaiah said, as the Lord lives, whatever my God says, that I will speak. Whatever my God says, that I will speak." Other people might be saying things. This might be the trending message, but that is trending does not mean it's the word for the season. That is trending does not mean it's the word for your congregation. That is trending does not mean that's the word God has given you to your own generation. So stop trying to blend in. Stop trying to fit in. What is the word God has given you for this generation? That is the truth you should communicate. And by the time he got to the palace, he realized that all the other prophets that had been encouraging the king were actually speaking under the influence of a lying spirit. So if he had tried to join the trend to be like them, he would have been lying. He would have been saying the wrong things. But he was the only one that received the mind of God concerning the war to be able to declare it to the king. So as a minister, you are not in need to please men. You are not in need for men's validation. You are not in need to be liked. Speak the truth, whether men agree with it or not, whether men accept it or not. That was what Jeremiah did. At some point, because he had an unpopular and unacceptable ministry, he said, I have made up my mind. I will no longer speak in his name. But then in Jeremiah chapter 20 verse 5, Jeremiah chapter 20, he says, "But his words were like fire shut up in it, words in my heart were like fire shut up in my bones." Let me read it out to you. In Jeremiah 20 verse 9, it says, from verse 8, it says, for when I spoke, I cried out, I shouted violence and plunder, because the word of the Lord was made to me a reproach and a derision daily. Verse 9 says, then I said, I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name, but his word was in my heart, like a burning fire shut up in my bones. I was weary of holding it back, and I could not. He wanted to hold back the truth because the people, his generation was not accepting it. They felt it was too, the words were too, it was too violent. It was not pleasing to the flesh. It was too harsh and hard on them. And because of that, he made up his mind, I was not going to teach again in the name of God. And he said, his words in my heart were like fire shut up in my bones. I said, I would no longer make mention of him or speak again in his name. Don't hold back the truth because people are not validating you. Don't hold back the truth because people are not validating with the message. Stay with the truth of God's word. Declare the wholesome counsel of God to his people. Stay with the truth of God's word. Declare his wholesome counsel to the people. And say like Apostle Paul, I have not shown to declare to you the wholesome counsel of God. See, that is the stance you should have as a minister of the gospel. I want to encourage you. Don't wait till you are liked, till everybody embrace you before you will speak the truth. Preach in season and out of season. Whether people like it, whether they don't like it, whether they accept it or they don't accept it, whether it's agreeable to the flesh or not agreeable to the flesh, stand on the truth of God's word and teach it. That is one of the ways to know whether you are a refined minister or not. Because for God to entrust you with the gospel, he will take you through a battery of tests that will approve you and make you qualified enough to speak to a generation. Don't fail the test. God bless you.